welcome. And with that, we're at 2:29. Should we get started? Okay, let's start with some introductions. I'll start and then I'll hand it off to my peers. So my name is Helen Christian. I am the University and Campus Relations Manager here at Southern California Edison. I've been in role for a whopping 6 months, so not too long, but I've been with the company for 15 years. And I can say that I'm a proud intern. So I started in 2009. I went to Cal Poly Pomona, majored in business with an emphasis in HR. Just as part of our requirement to graduate, we had to either get an intern or write a paper. And I'm like, you know what, I'm an intern. So that's what I did. And I happened to land an internship at SCE and I never left. And so I've actually been in HR the entire time. I've just been fortunate to kind of move around within talent acquisition. So I was a recruiter for about 14 years, ended up as a lead recruiter, kind of being able to coach and mentor some of my colleagues. And then I stepped into this role. I thought it'd be a great opportunity to, not just be an intern, but now get to oversee the program and kind of see how I can, continue to make improvements. So that's a little bit about me, and I'll hand it over to Cody.
Graduated from the MBA program back in 2022. I may have been on your orientation panel for some of the incoming master's students as well. Started my Edison journey actually started in a class or an information session just like this in Langsdorff Hall, where I learned a lot more about the company and found my way into an internship in 2013. Graduated, worked in international accounting at Monster Energy, different type of energy company. And then found my way back to SCE after a great internship. Joined through a recent graduate program, and that was 2015. And I've been in this with the company for about 10 years. Currently, I've been in various roles over the years in mostly financial roles and budgeting and forecasting roles. And currently, I manage a team of 6 analysts that develop budgets for projects anywhere from $25 million up to like $3 billion. Yeah, and I'm here to support the program and share and take questions as they come.
Thanks, Cody. Yeah, Manjeet.
All right. Well, my name is Manjeet Sun, and I'm a talent acquisition manager at Southern California Edison. I've been with the company now a little bit over 8 years. Helen was actually my recruiter. So thank you, Helen. And I've been in HR pretty much my entire career, which is close to about 20 years. In recruitment, about 12 years or 16 years or so. I went here for my first semester out of high school, then I transferred, then I graduated from Cal Poly Pomona. So my first degree, my first major was IT. I did CIS. I was happy, and so everyone was going into that field. So I followed and I completed it, but I couldn't see myself. So I added a second degree, which was HR. And here I am today. Because of what I do. And my team is responsible for full cycle recruiting. So as you guys gain experience and come into Southern California Edison as full time, or through the internship program, and I'm here to support the Helen.
Yeah, so when we say like internship, early careers would be kind of my area. So anywhere like where if you're still a student, even if you have work experience, but you're currently enrolled in school, it would be considered early career. And then Manjeet's group, it's more on the experience side. So more so professional level roles. All right, so with that, let's just get started. And I know I tailored this presentation to the audience, given that you guys are mostly all MBAs. I will say majority of our internships, I would say like 95% of them are, a lot of them are undergrad, STEM type positions, but we also do have another leadership development program that I wanted to share with you guys as well. So our internship program is a summer internship. It is 12 weeks in length. It is paid. We do have an accounting focus for one of the internships, which is a year-round internship, so it is a little bit different. You would still work full-time during the summer, and then when you're in school during the school year, you would work up to 24 hours. Okay, and then so the MBA pay ranges, we do compensate depending on your level of education that you're going for. And so currently the rate for MBAs is between $30 and $37 an hour. The leadership development program compensation is a little bit different, but we can get into that. So for the internship, it is 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday during the summer. Okay. You will work on some very meaningful hands-on projects. So you know, you're not just going to get coffee for, you know, any leaders or anything like that. I mean, it's very much, you know, task oriented. You get very, very meaningful projects. We basically, our internship program, I would say 90% of them is usually within like the STEM related field, but we also have other internships within, of course, you know, cybersecurity, MBAs, of course, within finance, accounting, data analytics, and corporate affairs. So some of the MBA internships that I think you guys might find the most beneficial would be within energy contract management and or finance. So within energy contract management, essentially what they do is they help procure the contracts that SCE kind of partners with the different renewable facilities and plants. Right, and so you need strong presentation skills and very strong analytical skills. And then here, you basically, within your 12 weeks, you would gain an understanding of the procurement market within California, within the western side of the United States, and then also develop relationships with executives within the organization. And then the finance role, this is what I alluded to a little bit earlier. It is that year-round program. So you would start, depending if you're a quarter or semester student, but you would basically start from May and end in May. It is 40 hours a week and then 24 hours during school. And really there, what you do is you help in capital asset accounting functions, looking at non-energy billing and understanding the foundation to kind of further your career within the accounting arena. And so the degree, master's in accounting, so that would align. I mean, your MBA with an emphasis in accounting. I think I heard a couple of you guys. For that program, because it is year round, you do have to be graduating 2027 or later. And I do want to caveat that we don't have any summer 2025 internships available, which is why I'm here to kind of just share what we do have available, which will be next year. So summer of 2026. So these are just some of the requirements. So you do have to be enrolled in a full-time accredited institution, which you guys, you know, are. You have to have at least one term remaining from the time that the position is posted. And so what that means is, let's say you are graduating, basically you have to be graduating in 2026, December of 2026 or later for the summer internships. You do have to reside in California for the duration of the internship. You have to have a minimum GPA of 2.8 or greater, and you have to be authorized to work in the US, as we do not sponsor. Some of the different activities that you gain through the program. There's mentorship involved, professional development workshops. Some of these workshops would include our executive speaker series, probably the most popular series that we have. And we change it up because we have several executives around the organization, but essentially we do Q&A, 45 minutes with executives on a panel. So you guys can really deep dive and understand their background, their history, how they got here, how they, you know, pivoted into the organization and how they've moved around. Networking sessions, you have opportunities, not just during those executive sessions, but you get to meet, you know, interns across the organization. We do a lot of fun activities. We have an intern expo. So after your 12-week internship, you do have an opportunity to present all of everything that you've learned to the entire organization. We also have a lot of fun events. So on National Intern Day for this year, we're planning an event to an Angels game versus the White Sox. Super fun. We have an hour and a half prior to the event where our interns get to interact with each other, really to grow that mentorship. We also are doing like we have team building activities. So we're doing a night at Dave & Buster's as well. So a lot of really cool things. We also do tours of our, what is it? The food kitchen, which we have all electric devices that people can tour. Also the education center that kind of showcases all of the electric devices that you can put in your homes, which is located in our Urbandale facility. All right, so this is what the process looks like. So, and again, this is for the summer internship. I'll get into the leadership development program after. The postings will go up Labor Day weekend. So September 1st, they will go up and they'll come down in December. However, we get thousands of applicants for our summer internship program, which means you need to be applying as soon as possible. So they always say if you are resume ready, you really don't have to get ready. So if you continue to update your resume, you should have it readily available where you can apply at a moment's notice. The way that our postings will work, it depends on location and it depends on major. So if you are a finance major and you see positions within Rosemead and within Westminster and within Pomona, you need to apply to all three of them. So just make sure you can actually go on our website and you can filter it by, keywords. So finance, internships, finance, right? And they'll all populate. You just need to make sure you apply to all of them because that'll tell us you're willing to go to these three locations. We can't make that assumption that you'd be willing to go to any of those locations. Okay, so once you apply, we will then screen, all the resumes, we'll filter the candidates and send the hiring manager kind of our recommendations, and then interviews would begin in the January timeframe. Now, the January timeframe, it can lead all the way up to February, March. Like we're still extending offers now. It kind of just depends. It doesn't mean, if I don't hear in January, then I don't have an opportunity anymore. We have about 100, anywhere between 130 and 150 interns every summer. So depending on, we get dropouts and everything. So sometimes the process can go from January to I'd say like March or April. Okay. That said, same thing with offers. We would extend offers as soon as January, as late as I'd say April. Okay. Then the onboarding process, this is where you would do the drug screen, security questionnaire, fill out all your, the paperwork, take your badge photo, and then you would basically be ready to start in either May or June, again, depending on if you're quarter or semester. All right, so that's a little bit about the internship program. So I'm just gonna stop there. Do you guys have any questions for myself as an intern or Cody as an intern, specifically around the summer internship program? Yes.
For the finance, is it just a regular summer internship? Like what are they?
So sometimes it depends on the requests that come in. So sometimes we will get summer internships for finance, or you saw the accounting one earlier. You could also apply to that one, which is the year-round program. So it kind of depends. Generally, I would say we do get both, but it's like a handful. The year-round, we get one.
And that comes out in September.
It still posts at the same time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that for the summer of this year, it's already stopped. It's the one that we are opening it for the January for the 2026.
Correct.
So we need to apply like in September of
this year. Yes.
Oh, they consider the January.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we always work the year prior. Yeah. So September 2025 is when we're recruiting for August or June. I'm sorry, May or June of 2026 start. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Will we be having like a resume look just before we're applying?
Will we have a resume?
Look for us.
We don't have anything scheduled, but I'm happy to coordinate with Kayleen potentially to do like a resume review. Yeah, you can do that.
I leveraged the on-campus resources, even the mock interviews here in the business building when I was on my pursuing my internships. There's the on-campus ones that can be leveraged as well. And I'll share a little bit about my internship experience. Helen mentioned the executive speaker series. I met the CFO of the company at the time, the CEO at the time. I got to see parts of the company that you don't get to get exposed to while you're in maybe a full-time role. We have an air ops facility where all the company helicopters are. Went to a power plant in San Bernardino or Redlands. Went to an advanced technology lab in Westminster. So you get exposed to the company in all these different facets that is, I think, unique to our program. You don't just kind of have your just your only job function. You get all this other exposure that comes with it too.
Yeah, so I didn't get those kind of cool opportunities to do those kinds of visits, and maybe it's because I was in HR, right? So HR is very much like a controlled environment, and but that sounds really awesome. But we do have some really cool things in store for our interns. All right, no questions virtually? Okay, cool. All right, so now we're going to move on to our MBA Leadership Development Program. So this is a very prestigious program where we hire 3 associates per year. It is very much like a very small cohort. We're in our 11th cohort, actually. Similar timeline, but a little bit different. And basically, the intention here for this MBA Leadership Development Program is for us to develop those who already have some kind of leadership experience, as well as professional real-world experience. We take them, we put them in a rotational program. It's a 2-year program. You rotate to different areas of your interest within the operations arena every 6 months. And it's a 2-year program. So upon graduation of this program, you are then automatically placed into a senior leader position. There have been some cases where at the time we didn't have any senior manager positions available, and so we would place into a senior project manager. But really the intent is to develop someone to gain the utility experience. So you don't have to have utility experience and just be ready to be a senior leader in the organization. So it is a very fast-paced kind of opportunity, because every 6 months you're going somewhere completely different. And really the rest is up to you to network, develop relationships, understand the business acumen of the area that you're in. And then from there, you kind of get to pick where you ultimately want to land. All right. You get an executive mentor basically your first day. You have options. We have about 10 executives who are part of this committee. Because it's a 2-year program, they usually have a cohort before them that they're still mentoring, but we do have others that have rolled off, and you would have the opportunity to match with them, and you get to interview them, just depending on the fit. But this is an exceptional opportunity because not a whole lot of people get direct executive mentorship for 2 years. And a lot of times they continue and they stay your mentor, even throughout your duration in the organization. So really, really strong program. You get to do monthly learning events. There's leader roundtables. You do those cool site visits that Cody was talking about. A lot of exposure in this role. They really want to make sure that you are successful. So we also have the program manager who oversees this program. I'm the technical recruiter for this program, where I do all of the screening and setting up of interviews and everything. But we do have a program manager who leads this program, where she meets with you monthly and does a great job of ensuring that you're successful. These are just some high level kind of areas of the organization you could possibly go, and some of the different projects that you would have an opportunity to work on. So, I mean, building electrification, financial process and transformation, system development, wildfire mitigation, power system safety shutoff, right? I mean, these are some really, really big critical programs that are happening around the organization today, right? So it prepares you to step into a senior leader role upon completion. Strategy, IT digital transformation, right? Some really cool stuff. So for this program, the posting timeline is a little bit different. We post as soon as July, August. You just apply on edisoncareers.com. You will see the MBA Leadership Development Program. It's very much fast tracked, right? So you apply and then we're already phone screening in the August, September timeframe. Okay. And ideally we wrap up offers by Thanksgiving. So this process is very much expedited. Within that process alone, you have an initial case study. So that would be with myself and the program manager. It isn't utilities related, but it is an in-depth case study where you would need to understand kind of the prompt and what is being asked of you, as well as answer and respond to questions that myself and the program manager will ask of you, along with giving your recommendation and like your response or how you solve basically the case. So talk about, time constraint, right? Working under pressure with people interviewing you basically, and also having to solve a pretty complex business problem, right? And then from there, depending on who kind of passes that initial case study, that's when we'll move forward with a behavioral interview, as well as an executive meet and greet, as well as an additional case study. That additional case study is much harder. It's much more challenging. And that's where we kind of leave you to your own devices. You'll have an hour to solve it, and then you have to give a presentation in front of the executives. So again, this process really is not only assessing kind of your technical capabilities, right, but your ability to work under pressure, as well as your executive presence. It's a big component that we look for. And then all that said and done, then we have offers before Thanksgiving. And the comp for this position is approximately about 150,000. I think I actually just got an email today that it was probably moving up just a hair, but you can figure like 150,000 annually. Okay, and then similar requirements. The grad date here is incorrect just because this was a slide that I repurposed, but you will have to be graduating at least in 2026, May or June of 2026. So you do have to have at least 1 year of leadership experience. So this is probably the one area that most people end up not qualifying for. And I emphasize this because the purpose of the program is to really develop someone that already has led a team of individuals. So you do have to come in with people leadership experience. So if this is something that you're interested in and are going to apply for, make sure that on your resume you showcase that you've led a team of individuals, how many, in what capacity. Again, it doesn't have to be utility related, but we do need to see at least 1 year of people leadership. And you do have to have 2 years of professional work experience under your belt as well. Okay, and then you also have to be authorized to work in the US without visa sponsorship. And you do have to reside in California for the duration of the program. Actually, as an organization, all of our employees need to reside in California. There are very few exceptions. So we basically model our leadership development program as well as our internship program according to how the rest of the organization looks. Okay, which we operate in a hybrid model, majority. All right, so really those are the two programs that I wanted to share. Does anyone have any questions regarding the MBA Leadership Development Program?
When you said you do rotations, is it in the same place, or that you do it one city, you do this rotation, and the next city you do another rotation?
So every 6 months, it would be an entirely different organization. It could, I guess, be in the same city. It doesn't necessarily mean that the city has to change. Like, for example, we have finance in Rosemead, right? And then we might have operations in Pomona. So, it really could be where you're most interested in, or even generation up in Big Creek, let's say, right? Like if you really wanted to go, do something, you can. It's very unique in that you get to choose where you want to rotate into.
So on the slide, it said July and August. So like July 1st.
I would say probably not July 1st, but mid-July. Yeah,
All the way to August.
through August, yes. So we leave our postings open until filled, but I put like an end date like August because it's more realistic that you need to apply before August ends, so that we can start the process of, as you saw the timeline, it is very much expedited. So we're already starting to phone screen and talk to candidates in like end of July, right? So if you apply too late, you really, the chances of being looked at are slim to none. So we always encourage to, if you see a posting, don't sit on it. Apply as soon as possible. As long as your resume ready, you can apply at any time.
I'm kind of curious,
Sure.
because it is expedited, like how many candidates are you moving through from July to November?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So for our regular internships, we get thousands of candidates. As you can imagine, we have 130, 150 to fill. For the MBA, the leadership development program, I would say I probably review 200 easily, and then about 50 will be reviewed to go, like my counterpart and I will kind of review, and we'll narrow that 50 down to about 20 that go to case, and then half will move on to like the behavioral. So it's I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't seem like a lot, right? Just because there's, a lot of candidates out there who are interested, but that's why it's really critical that, you apply sooner than later, because with this program though, because we have executive presence and they actually get input, sometimes we think it's going to work out. We think we're able to place all three, and then turns out that for some reason or another, we have to go back to the drawing board. And in that case, we basically start the whole process over. And that would mean for a very busy like January timeframe. But usually, like this last round was my first round, because like I said, I've only been enrolled for 6 months, but I was fortunate. I was able to place all three. But I've heard in previous where they've had to go back to the drawing board.
What kind of characteristic of that colleges that looking for on the resume? So what kind of skill stand out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And you're talking about for this MBA leadership development program, right? So first and foremost, you have to have the people leadership. So that's the one thing I look at first, right? You also have to have at least 2 years of work experience. So when we look at a resume, we base it off of the like quantifiable skills, right? I can't determine someone's personality on a resume, right? So I have to look at the hard skill sets that you do possess, as well as graduation date, as well as actually major. I actually have seen some people that are not MBA students that apply to this program, so then they're automatically disqualified, right? So those are the main things, right? And then you will also see some students have like project work that is very relevant to maybe like within their MBA program, they're doing like a capstone on, I don't know, like EVs or, something very relevant. And again, you don't have to have energy experience to be qualified for the program. However, it does make someone stand out if they do, given that we are a utility company, right? And so depending, or like the coursework that they've completed, right? Sometimes you can kind of tell a person's interest and their skill set based on some of the coursework that they've listed on their resume. So it's just really important that you list the relevant experience that you do have according to what the job is asking for. In this case, it's a leadership development program. So if you have people leadership, you definitely need to include that, but be as detailed as you can. I mean, we don't need a 10-page resume, of course, because that's a whole lot of information to sift through. But if it's relevant to the job, feel free to include it. There are a lot of myths out there that say, oh, just 1-page resume. It's okay if it's 2 pages. It just doesn't need to be 10. Right. Yes.
This is on
mind, can you apply to the league of the next year, like the graduation of 2027 part-time program with 7 years professional experience?
So you have to be in your first year of your MBA program. Sorry, they were going to be done when? It's a part-time program. Yes, because it has to be 2026 or later. Yeah, so they could qualify. Okay. Any other questions? No? Going once? Okay, well, that's all I had. So if anyone has any other, questions, or if you guys just want to come up and chat, we're more than happy to take questions. We got, Manjeet on the professional side. We've got him on managing $3 billion, billion-dollar budget?
Billion. So
$3 billion?
if there's no more questions, I'll take an opportunity.
Please do.
There may be a perception of the utility as like this engineering company, 100-year-old company, or 100+ years now. The work, it's still very much a large business that requires complex accounting to manage all of our billions of dollars of assets that are out there through Southern California. So we have all the typical accounting functions you would expect and some very complex ones. Helen mentioned there's this energy contracts group that's basically procuring the megawatts we need out in a market to keep the lights on. I would say California has some of the most progressive, ambitious policies of what we need to do as a utility. And you'll find that California, we are pushing the envelope with the way that work is getting done. So there's a lot of innovation happening. We've talked about building electrification. We have customers coming to us now saying, hey, I've got solar panels and a battery now, and I want to do this complex exporting to the grid. And we're figuring out how to make that easier for them to do. There's a lot of innovation happening at the company. We're huge on cybersecurity. I think behind financial institutions, people come for the grid to do mischievous things. Because if you think about it, if you turn the lights off, we're kind of back in the Stone Age. You can't get cash out of the ATM. You can't pump your gas. You can't do a lot of things. So we have all this IT infrastructure. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on that admittedly, I was first looking at SCE because of the opportunities and they paid well as an intern. And I found myself, I'll be honest, I interviewed for 3 positions in a call center, in a project management organization, and in another engineering group. So there's opportunities throughout the company. I would encourage you guys to keep an eye on the postings online.
Yeah, I would say kind of similar to what Cody just mentioned, having been a recruiter, right? You get to recruit for all areas of the organization. I had no idea we hired biologists. I had no idea we had dam safety engineers. I had no idea we hired hydrologists, right? Hydrographers, sorry. They're literally ski shoeing, snowshoeing, something. They're in skis up, the mountain to measure how much water fell that snow season.
Yeah, we need to see how much snow melt is going to come through the dams to power us for that summer.
I mean, we've got aviary specialists who, are working to protect the birds that go into the lines.
Helicopter pilots.
Helicopter pilots. I mean, they're doing, they're protecting the turtles, depending on when they lay their eggs. And I mean, it's just so fascinating, right? Some of the work that we have an opportunity to work on. So when you think about SCE, most people do just think about power, right? But there's a lot that goes behind the business. And really you can take your MBA anywhere, right? It's not like something like engineering, and not to knock, engineering, but you could literally take a business degree anywhere, right? And so many facets of the organization within operations or within HR or within, anywhere. So definitely keep an open mind. you do have to, like for the internships, for example, I don't think I covered this earlier, but depending on your major, you can really only apply to that major. So even though you're an MBA, but let's say you're super interested in getting into engineering, unfortunately, if you to apply to engineering, you'll automatically get rejected because you don't meet the minimum requirement of that, which would be an engineering major, right? So you do have to qualify for all of the positions that you apply for. But even having said that, I would say networking is probably one of the best ways you can invest in your own career, right? Not just coming to these events, other events that are on campus, actually doing mock interviews with individuals, right? Really just being proactive on LinkedIn. If you're not already, definitely, I would say take advantage of that. Make sure that your profile is updated. Employers do look. Before I read an in-mail on LinkedIn, I will look at the profile to see who I'm talking to, right? There's so many fake profiles out there now too. So sometimes I don't even know if I'm engaging with an actual person. So make sure you have a profile photo. If there's no photo, I probably won't even look because we get hundreds of messages, right? So we do have to be selective. And there is a way to be creative in your messaging so that these employers will actually look at your message and want to respond, right? What is going to set you apart from the hundreds of other people that are trying to reach out? After you meet someone from an event, connect with them on LinkedIn. People are not doing business cards anymore. It's all digital, right? It's all via LinkedIn. And there's just so many different ways you can keep in touch and engage with people, not just recruiters, but other folks in the organization. If you meet someone at Edison, and if the utility is somewhere that you really want to find yourself, continue to put yourself out there. We have classes at our education center where the public can go and learn. You can learn about anything. And there's a list of, what's offered, and you can meet people there as well. So look at everything as like an opportunity to meet someone, especially for someone that is looking for employment now. Go to the job fairs and put yourself out there, because it is a full-time job looking for work, and there's a lot of people that are doing just that. So what's going to set you apart from the others who are doing it?
Edison definitely is a company where, like Helen said, it's truly built. Right? If you put in the door, whether it's internships or full-time opportunities, there are entry-level positions as well. We have probably right now close to, if not more than 300 vacancies as we speak. So that goes from entry level all the way to principal manager level, if not even higher. We are very transparent as far as what we're looking for, what our requirements are. So it is important to really thoroughly read the job description and see if you're truly aligned to the role, do you meet the requirements, and if you do, Helen said, taking a look at your resume and making sure, does it speak out to the skill set and the experience that particular position is looking for? Because it is extremely competitive out there. We get hundreds and hundreds of applications. So some of them are declined right away based on how you respond, based on, your application. So it's critical to kind of stay on top of your career search. As she said, it's a full-time job just to be looking for a job. But edisoncareers.com, she did put that out there. So keep an eye out. Our jobs do go live, real time, but they do stay up until positions are actually filled or a candidate is identified. But it's almost, sometimes I think it's first come, first serve. That may be a strategy a recruiter is using. So you want to get your application in as soon as possible. Like the minute you see it, start working on that. If your resume is not ready, see if you can tailor it. LinkedIn and networking is so crucial these days. It's we are here at Edison, we are in an all hands recruiting approach where everyone's a recruiter. It's not just my team or Helen's team just doing the work, but even employees. So you never know who you run into, what link they're going to provide, right? So keep an open mind, network, and get yourself on LinkedIn, build that profile. There's so much on the net these days. So easy to kind of tailor your resume and see what companies are looking at. And LinkedIn, there's videos out there as to, what does an ideal profile look like. I'm sure there's workshops out there that you guys can attend as well. So keep an eye out, really take charge of your career. It is definitely in your hands. I think, Edison is definitely a place where you can join. What is it? What's a count right now? 15,000 plus employees right now. So, and it's growing and it'll continue in that direction. So you guys are welcome to explore and keep edisoncareers.com as top of your priority.
Yeah, and I would say there's probably nothing more impressive than a candidate who knows what they're talking about, right? So if you, before you reach out to a hiring manager or to a recruiter, right? There's so much free information out there. We have our white papers that are published for anybody to read. If you read some of that information and really draw a compelling message to say, hey, I read that Edison's trying to go, net zero by 2045. And I read that, XYZ, and you put that in your messaging, you're going to capture someone's attention that way. That's how you're setting yourself apart than the other 1,000 people that, that message and say, hey, can I connect with you, right? That's just a very cookie cutter message that LinkedIn already provides for you. Like, what effort did the person invest in to try and do something like that, right? So really just doing your homework and know what you're talking about as you reach out. But I could possibly get a message that might be for Manjeet's team, but if someone has a compelling message, I will go out of my way to say, hey, I got this really cool message, like reach out to the person. We've hired people that way because you leave an impression and people will remember you, right? So I would say, in this day and age, that's probably the way to go. It's all about, trying to set yourself apart and put yourself out there. And it will happen for you. Like, really, that's what the strategy, I think, needs to be in this day and age. So with that, any parting thoughts?
No, I don't think so. I mean, okay, be persistent. I'll be totally honest. I did not get my first opportunity at FCE. I went in nervous, and I think that showed. So again, take advantage of the mock interviews if this is going to be some of your first time going through the interview process. But I didn't get discouraged. I kept at it and found what ultimately was the right fit. So I would encourage you all to just be persistent in your pursuit.
I just remembered one thing as he was talking about interviewing. So Edison is very traditional still. So we use behavioral-based interview styling. So very much the STAR methodology. So situation, task, action, and result. If you can put your examples into this STAR method, you basically will be able to answer the question exactly what the interviewers want to know. It'll help you to develop your response to where they're not going to be wondering, like, what did they just tell me, right? Because you gave your situation, you talked about the task that you were assigned, talked about what actions you took, and then what the end result was, right? So just keep that formula in the back of your mind as you prep your examples. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I actually created a document prior to interviewing with all the possible examples that I can think of that are meaningful. And I continue to keep those with me because you just never know when you're going to be asked a question and you might be able to pull it out, right? Our interviews are probably, like, I would say 95% virtual right now. So it does help to kind of have it, you're not going to want to be reading from it, but it does help to kind of have it, categorized. This is, my, I don't know, team oriented example, right? And if you don't have any prior work experience, especially for the internships, it's okay to talk about your projects and how you've led those projects to success, right? The other thing is we don't take cover letters. So there really isn't a whole lot of need to focus on perfecting this cover letter. We don't read them. Really put that effort into your resume. And with that,
And
I
prepping.
think, yeah, and prepping.
Prep,
Yeah.
prep, prep.
Mhm.
That's the key. I always tell my candidates that an interview or answering one of those behavior questions, writing an essay. Give your thesis statement, provide the supporting details, the examples, and in a STAR format. You know, there's some, I don't even know if it's out there, but I always say STAR plus. So your example should show your ability to go above and beyond.
And now with the virtual environment, a lot of times it's hard to like, you know, usually when you're in person, you can kind of feel someone's energy in the room, right? But when you're virtual, you really can't do that. So you still have to figure out a way to bring the authenticity out, even in a virtual environment. And sometimes that's hard, right? So that is what I think takes probably the most practice, right? You do want to bring out and showcase like your best self. And that takes practice because you're not always going to be this animated like you probably need to be during an interview or like giving this presentation, right? So you have to figure out a way that's going to work for you, but also come off as genuine and authentic. So yeah. And
Yeah,
with that, I
virtual,
think that's my
yeah.
yeah, on camera too. Yeah.